The 1970s were a golden age for rhythm and soul, a decade where funk grooves met velvet harmonies, and the radio dial overflowed with feeling. The spinner spun romance into motion, and Marvin Gaye made us question the world with a single line. These are the 12 best-selling R&B artists who defined the decade and still move us today. Number 12, the Isley Brothers, the family that brought the funk home. When you talk longevity, nobody did it like the Isley Brothers. By the early 70s, they'd already been recording for over a decade. But when they dropped 3+3 in 1973 under their own label, T-Neck Records, the game changed. The Isleys fused rock, gospel, and sensual soul into something that felt both electric and intimate. Songs like That Lady and Summer Breeze turned up the heat on the airwaves. While Fight the Power made it clear the family band wasn't afraid to speak truth to rhythm.
We gotta fight the powers that be.
Ernie Isley's searing guitar lines could have rivaled Hendrix, and Ronald's silky falsetto gave their message a velvet punch. You could feel their sound rolling out of car windows on summer nights, that blend of funk and feeling that spoke directly to the spirit of the 70s. Their records didn't just sell, they stayed. And the next artist, they kept the slow jam alive one harmony at a time. Number 11, The Spinners, the soundtrack to Smooth Love. The Spinners were the heartbeat of Philly soul, a blend of romance and refinement that defined 1970s radio. Though they began with Motown in the 60s, their golden chapter began when they teamed up with Tom Bell at Atlantic Records in 1972. Suddenly, those harmonies had orchestral polish and storytelling grace. Tracks like Could It Be I'm Falling in Love and I'll Be Around weren't just chart toppers, they became wedding vows for a generation. Every note carried warmth, every lyric a promise. And when Philippe Wynn's velvet falsetto hit the air, it felt like love itself was singing. You could imagine the needle dropping on a Saturday night, lights low, and couples two-stepping in living rooms from Detroit to Atlanta. Their albums went gold, their singles platinum, and their influence stretched from Boys II Men to modern neo-soul ballads. If the Spinners gave us tender love, the next artist turned romance into a full-bodied groove that filled every dance floor in America. Number 10, Gladys Knight and the Pips, the Empress and her train of harmony. By the early 1970s, she and the Pips had found their stride, mixing gospel passion with sleek soul sophistication. Signed to Motown before the decade began, their true breakthrough came with Neither One of Us Wants to Be the First to Say Goodbye in 1973, marking the bittersweet end of their Motown era before moving to Buddha Records.
Neither one of us wants to be the first to say goodbye.
That move turned into magic. Midnight Train to Georgia rolled across the nation, capturing heartbreak, hope, and the pull of home in a way that felt deeply human.
On that midnight train to Georgia.
The harmonies of the Pips, her brother Merrill Bubba Knight, and cousins Edward Patton and William Guest lifted her voice into storytelling heaven. Gladys didn't just sing a lyric, she lived it. You could feel the ache, the pride, the resolve. Her blend of elegance and soul made her one of the decade's biggest-selling R&B artists and one of its most beloved. From heartbreak to sensual heat, the next artist on our list turned every love song into a bedroom anthem. Number 9, Barry White, the maestro of Love Unlimited. When Barry White spoke, the air seemed to vibrate with velvet. Deep, rich, and impossibly smooth, his baritone became the signature sound of love in the 1970s. But behind that voice was a man of immense musical vision, a producer, arranger, and songwriter who built an empire around orchestral soul. In 1973, White's Got So Much to Give introduced the world to I'm Gonna Love You Just a Little More, Baby. It wasn't just a hit, it was an atmosphere.
I've got so much to give to you, yeah, to see your lips up on my face. Please hurry, please.
Strings soared, bass lines pulsed, and lovers everywhere found their soundtrack. Through his Love Unlimited Orchestra, Barry created lush, symphonic grooves that turned R&B into something cinematic. Every record he touched, whether his own or with Love Unlimited, sold by the millions. He wasn't just selling music, he was selling a mood. And in the middle of the disco decade, nobody did romance quite like Barry White. But if Barry brought Silk and Candlelight, the next act brought unity, power, and a message straight from the streets of Philadelphia. Number 8, the O'Jays, the preachers of Philly soul. When the O'Jays sang, you didn't just hear it, you felt it deep in your bones. Hailing from Canton, Ohio, Eddie Leverett, Walter Williams, and William Powell struck gold when they joined forces with the Philadelphia songwriting dream team of Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff. That partnership transformed them into messengers of groove and conscience. In 1972, Backstabbers exploded onto the scene with its title track and the Eternal Love Train.
Smile in your face. All the time they wanna take your place. The backstabbers on a love tree, love tree.
The O'Jays weren't afraid to mix joy with justice, love with life lessons. Their music carried the spirit of community, the feeling of neighbors barbecuing in summer heat, or friends clapping to the beat under streetlights. Every record went platinum, and every lyric meant something. Whether they were calling out betrayal or lifting people to unity, the O'Jays brought righteous soul to the charts. And speaking of lifting spirits, our next group took Soul Obscurus all the way to the skies with horns, harmonies, and pure fire. Number 7, Earth, Wind, and Fire, the elements of eternal groove. Few bands ever touched the cosmic joy of Earth, Wind, and Fire. Founded by the visionary Maurice White, they blended African rhythms, jazz horns, gospel harmonies, and pop hooks into a sound that was spiritual and unstoppable. When their 1975 album, That's the Way of the World, hit, led by Shining Star and Reasons, it wasn't just a success, it was a revelation.
You're a shining star, no matter who you are.
Their shows felt like church, theater, and carnival rolled into one. Philip Bailey's angelic falsetto soared, while Verdine White's bass grooves danced underneath a brass section that could shake the heavens. Each performance radiated joy, pride, and power, everything that the Black experience in the 70s was becoming. Confident, colorful, and alive. With gold and platinum albums stacked high, EWF didn't just sell records, they sold energy. Their message? Believe in the magic of life. But where EWF reached for the stars, the next man on our list reached straight for the heart, with songs that healed, loved, and inspired. Number 6, Al Green, the Reverend of Soulful Desire. Al Green's voice could melt heartbreak into honey. In the early 1970s, this Memphis preacher's son became one of the defining sounds of Southern soul. Working closely with producer Willie Mitchell at High Records, Al's recordings glowed with intimacy, a perfect marriage of warm horns, velvet strings, and a rhythm section that swayed like slow fire. From Let's Stay Together in 1972 to Love and Happiness, every record carried that church meets bedroom tension that made his sound unforgettable.
Let's stay together. Love and happiness. Oh.
You could feel feel the congregation in his falsetto and the temptation in his sighs. It wasn't just music, it was confession, devotion, and redemption all at once. But behind that smooth exterior came struggle. After a near-tragic incident in 1974, Green turned fully to gospel, becoming Reverend Al Green. Yet his classic albums continued to sell and inspire generations of soul singers. If Al Green gave us salvation through seduction, the next group on our list gave us celebration through funk, and they brought the house down with every beat. If these soul legends are taking you back, give this video a thumbs up. It helps keep the groove alive and the memories spinning. And don't go anywhere. The 5 best-selling R&B artists of the 70s are still ahead, and they'll take you higher than ever. Number 5, the Commodores, Funk, Fire, and the golden voice of Lionel Richie. Before Lionel Richie became a pop powerhouse, he was the smooth soul at the heart of the Commodores, a group that defined the sound of late 70s R&B. Formed at Tuskegee University, they were Motown's answer to the rising funk scene, and they brought both grit and grace to every groove. With hits like Brick House, Easy, and 3 Times a Lady, the Commodores managed the impossible, mixing hard funk with tender love songs, keeping the dance floors packed and the lovers close.
She's a bread house. 3 times a lady.
Their stage energy was electric, horns blasting, bass tenor thumping, Lionel's warm tenor leading the charge. By 1978, they were one of Motown's top-selling acts, moving millions of albums worldwide and bridging the gap between soul and the smooth sounds that would shape the 80s. And if the Commodores gave us the dance and devotion, the next artist gave us pure divinity, a woman whose voice could lift an entire generation. Number 4, Aretha Franklin, the queen who reigned through every change. Even in the disco-fueled chaos of the 1970s, Aretha Franklin stood tall, unshaken, unbent, and still the queen of soul. By this decade, she'd already conquered the 60s, but the 70s proved her staying power. Signed to Atlantic, then later to Arista, Aretha continued to deliver power and purpose, blending gospel roots with modern soul sophistication. Her early 70s hits like Spanish Harlem, Rock Steady, and Daydreamin' showed a woman evolving with the times, unafraid to groove, to funk, to testify. You could feel the city in her sound, that New York grit meeting church-born grace, and every note she sang felt like it was pulled from the heart of the struggle and the soul of survival. Aretha wasn't just selling records, she was reminding the world that authenticity is the crown. Her records went gold, her performances legendary, her legacy untouchable. And if the Queen gave us fire and faith, the next artist gave us innovation, a man who reimagined what R&B could be. Number 3, Stevie Wonder, the visionary who redefined soul. Stevie Wonder didn't just dominate the 1970s, he reshaped it. Blind since infancy but limitless in imagination, Stevie turned Motown into a laboratory of sound. When he renegotiated his contract in 1971, he gained full creative control, and what followed was one of the most astonishing artistic runs in music history. From Talking Book to Inner Visions, from Fulfillingness's first finale to Songs in the Key of Life, Stevie created masterpieces that were personal, political, and profoundly human. Superstition shook with funky urgency. Living for the City exposed America's realities. And Isn't She Lovely reminded us of life's tender miracles. His use of synthesizers revolutionized R&B, crafting soundscapes that felt both futuristic and soulful. Millions of records sold, Grammys stacked, and his message of love and social awareness carried across the world. If Stevie gave us sound that spoke to the heavens, the next artist brought soul back to earth, raw, sensual, and searching for something real. Number 2, Marvin Gaye, the soul philosopher of a troubled decade. Marvin Gaye was the sound of feeling itself. By the 1970s, he'd already made his mark as Motown's smooth romantic. But when What's Going On dropped in 1971, everything changed. That album wasn't just a hit, it was a revelation. Marvin broke the Motown mold, producing and writing his own material, daring to ask the world's hardest questions through a lens of love. He sang about war, injustice, ecology, and hope. But with a groove so beautiful, you couldn't stop moving, even while your heart was breaking. Later came Let's Get It On and I Want You, where Marvin turned sensuality into spiritual experience.
Let's get it on. I want you. Want me, baby.
His music made you think, feel, and surrender. Tragically, his life mirrored the tension in his art, a struggle for peace within chaos. But the music, it remains immortal, proof that soul can be both protest and prayer. And if Marvin made us reflect, the next artist made us believe again, in joy, in youth, in rhythm, and in the unstoppable power of family. Number 1, the Jackson 5, Michael Jackson, the phenomenon that defined a generation. When the Jackson 5 burst onto the scene in 1969, the world felt a jolt of joy that carried deep into the 1970s. 5 brothers from Gary, Indiana, Michael, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, and Marlon, became Motown's ultimate dream realized. Youth, talent, and charisma rolled into pure rhythm. Their first 4 singles, from I Want You Back to I'll Be There, all hit number 1. No one had ever seen that kind of energy, but it was Michael who took it to another level. His voice, tender, urgent, and wise beyond his years, made every lyric feel like a confession. As the decade progressed, he evolved from child star to solo powerhouse, with Off the Wall in 1979, marking the birth of a new era in R&B. The Jacksons sold millions, packed arenas, and became a symbol of black excellence, shining on the global stage. Their mix of pop, funk, and soul defined the 70s sound, and Michael's rise set the stage for what was coming in the 80s. From basement parties to world tours, they didn't just dominate charts, they defined culture. And just when you think you've heard it all, wait until you hear how the soul sound evolved in the next decade. From the gospel grit of Al Green to the universal genius of Stevie Wonder, the 1970s proved that R&B wasn't just a genre, it was life set to music. These artists sold millions, but more importantly, they moved hearts. Thanks for joining us on this soul stroll through the 70s, where every groove had a purpose and every voice told a story. If you love this trip down memory lane, subscribe to keep the groove alive and never miss our next stroll. Up next, the 12 highest selling R&B artists of the 1960s, the dawn of a new sound and a whole new soul. Click the end screen and let's keep the rhythm rolling.